Hi, my name is Sky, and this is my proposal for adding a third branch to the United States government, and I guess even a way to potentially approach the new, or adding another legislative body to the United Nations. So the idea is create something like Facebook for the government, and have it that there's a website, there's an app, uh, and people are able to create an account and say, okay, I'm a candidate for this new parliament. And in the case of the United States, 1,000 people will have the chance to be part of this legislative body. To and what can this legislative body do? Propose legislation to the House of Representatives in the United States. And that's it. Just propose legislation. You have 1,000 seats. You open it up to every citizen and say, okay, you have a chance to be a member of this parliament. Like, all right, well, here's my biography. Here's my resume. Here are the key words about me and who I represent, what I think is important. And every citizen in the United States has access to this app, and it's up to them to decide, like, okay, it's election time for these guys, and every citizen has one vote. So they can only give their one vote to one candidate who they feel, this person represents me, my interests, what I think is important. What this person is saying is the thing that I feel needs to have a voice in government. And as a result, that should get 1,000 people of a spectrum, wide spectrum of interests into this legislative body. So 1,000 people, and you're just kind of going by popularity of maybe like of keywords of what do people think is important. Okay, these guys they represent all these demographics and just things about that people feel are important in the United States, and they are now part of this body. They can now operate in this thing that is similar to Facebook. So what does that mean? Well, likes and groups, or pages and groups. So what is a page? A page is an issue, something that this is something that is important, something needs to be addressed, something that we need to support or keep an eye on or what have you. It's like FEMA. FEMA would have a page that hey, I like and support FEMA. Well, by the way, here's my comments about how we can make FEMA better. Groups are where legislation is proposed. So a group could be, I guess, as small as 2 people. Everything going on in this virtual government is visible to the public. Anybody can log in and look at what people are doing on the pages and in the groups. So in the groups, legislation is proposed. People can say, hey, we need this to happen. Something needs to change. This is something that needs to be addressed. And that group, they have their comments, discussion, people, and ideally that's where, if people are, clashing over, they're asking questions, they're hammering out with each other, how can we make this thing better? What's something that's not being addressed? What's something that could be done better? How can the information be presented better or cleared up so that we're not having, haziness or whatever, this miscommunication and misunderstanding about what it is we're trying to achieve. And all of that is visible to the public. Are people just going in the group and blathering on, being a troll? And it's like, we can't get anything done because this person is not behaving professionally. So any unprofessional behavior, you basically have a thing right away report, hey, this person's a troll. This person should not be here. Look at them acting crazy and bizarre online. Everybody's like, yeah, let's vote them out, and they're gone. Simple majority vote. So you now have an opening. Well, who didn't make the 1,000, vote whatever count? Now gets, the next person can go in. So the other thing is that you run for office or you run for a position in this parliament the first year, you don't make it. You still have an account. You still have a chance to say, okay, I wanted to run for office, I wanted to represent things, I didn't get my chance to participate. Since I can see what's happening in the government, I'm going to critique it. I'm going to challenge. I'm going to say, hey, this is a problem, this is an issue. This is, where you're going to have roadblocks. This is where you're going to have a negative impact on something. And post that, to the website. Because, in a year's time, that's the other thing. The parliament is a yearly election. So ideally, it's like, who would run for this parliament? Ideally, people who, because it's not going to get paid. There's going to be no money for it. The only support for it comes from the government itself. So I can see the government like, all right, well, we're going to give somebody, basically a laptop computer. Here's a keyboard, interface, word processing unit. And that's the other thing about all the meat and potatoes, the sausage, what is the exact wording of legal documents going to the House Representatives, the lower, branch of the Congress. That's the written part. Because we have online, and we have this ability to send audio and visual, teleconference, I'm thinking that, you essentially have an arena type arrangement where any members of this parliament, they can interact with each other, and through video conferencing. And, they discuss things, they can argue about things, debate, what have you, and hopefully it's civil, and that's the beauty of it as well, that because of the technology, if somebody's misbehaving, all right, put them on mute. Will that person be voted back into office at the end of the year? So I'm hoping it's making sense that rather than have a dramatic change in the government, rather than have a dramatic shift in how things are done, and also making use of what has the quarantine and pandemic, taught us, what can we get done from home, and what access do people have to online hyper connectivity. What has been technology's limiting factor before in how government is done? Access to the people from the different areas to say, hey, we represent something, we want something done. All the previous models of government are always involving districts. We have to district out, by locations, by size, by geography, ways to manage a land. And it's just a matter of how fast can people communicate? What are the strategic or whatever issues going on in the land? How fast can somebody in charge get some resources to help handle a situation or a crisis? So, a virtual online parliament, and their sole purpose and goal is we are going to propose legislation for the federal government this is things we need to address, and everybody in the nation can view that legislation. They can view the discussion of how it's made. They can't affect it except for whatever websites and blogs, and unless they register as a politician, or say hey, as a candidate, I want to be part of this parliament, they have no space really to critique or say otherwise. So potentially you have different sort of groups of existing within this space. The one group who are just candidates, who are just whatever raw talent, untested people. They have not been elected. Then you have the people who were not elected, but have said, okay, this is what I think. This is what I'm observing. These are what I think can be changed and improved. And this can also be the people who they were elected out of office. Then you have the people who are in office, who are in the parliament, and these people have this access to all this environment or all this information, and they how would these people interact in this parliament? And so I'm thinking that it would be something akin to, you have your group, which is whatever agenda, purpose for existing within this parliament, and in the groups, you say, hey, there's this, I think this, here's my reasons why, and here's my evidence that I found online, found on the internet, because of sociology, research, we would suggest this happens because of environmental or examinations of materials. We think this should be changed different. Here's my scientific research papers, proving my point. So all this sort of legwork is done. People can dispute that information or say, yeah, but that only works in this case, and get into specifics. Yeah, and everybody in the public can read it. So addressing issues like social justice, you can cite the examples of why do we need this change in legislation? Why do we need this law? Why do we need this oversight? And you can also examine economies. Why are we spending money on this? What could be done cheaper? So this is my idea for a new branch of government to add to the existing one. And you expand it out to the United Nations, have, say, a United Nations, have 5,000 people, size sort of online, app-based group, and everybody in the world can say, hey, I want to be voted in. Maybe you have two parliaments, like one is for the size, one is for geography, but yeah, I think it's something that would really help the world.